Hi, everybody. I'm here with Amy Cropper, and we're talking recruiter enablement. So, Amy, thank you very much for joining me today. Give us a quick introduction to you.
Thanks, Adam. Nice to be here. Yes, I'm Amy Cropper. I am currently working with a small B2B software company called Tricentis. I've been here as an interim VP of TA and staying on in a contract capacity to help with some strategic projects related to recruiter enablement. So a good segue there. And prior to Tricentis, have spent the majority of my career in TA, both with Accenture and Amazon, and have always gravitated to the recruiter enablement, recruiter operations type of work because I think it's so critical to enabling delivery. So,
Okay, so first of all, why is it important?
well, as I said, I think it's ultimately to enable delivery and make sure that we're able to fulfill our expectations of our business to ensure that they're able to get the right people at the right time and in the right roles. It's simple to say, but difficult to do because it really spans so many different things. Um, to me, it's everything from educating and training recruiters, recruiting coordinators, interviewers, hiring managers, as well as making sure that your processes and your systems are helping you to work effectively. Mechanisms to make sure that the recruiting team is able to inspect their work, pinpoint issues, and really track, making sure that you're addressing those things over time. Um, so there's really a lot to it, and I think that's why it's such a fascinating area for me that I have continued to stay close to throughout my career.
So, I was about to ask you why you mentioned this is an area that you've gravitated towards, and I was going to ask you why, but you've kind of answered that question. I'll ask a slightly related question, which is what are the competencies of the types of people who thrive in recruiter enablement?
I would say you have a need for order and structure. I like to call myself a control enthusiast, so I don't know that you all have to be, but I do think it's important to, see the benefit of having structure, not overly, not overkill, but enough structure that people know the expectations that they're working within, that they understand measurement of their key performance indicators, that people have clear ownership of responsibilities. So those are some of the things that I think are expected. So I think that someone that's able to, lead and talk about the benefits and help people understand why that's important without being, overbearing in terms of micromanagement and things like that. That's really not what it's about. It's ideally putting a structure into place that people can see the benefit from and work within that serves the purpose, but also allows them to, do their job effectively and not spend all of their time, in your processes. So I think it's kind of a balance of stakeholder management, and being able to still keep the strategic big picture in mind while working on sometimes very, very low level details. So for example, the last couple of weeks, I've been like up to my neck in like workday disposition codes. So very different than, the call I had right after that, which was 2024 goal setting. So I think recruiting operations people have to be able to navigate that switch like at a moment's notice.
What are the biggest differences in doing this in a mega corporation like an Amazon versus in a smaller organization like a Tricentis?
Well, surprisingly, it's less than you would think. I kind of like to think of Amazon as a big startup, but in any case, I think, certainly the scale of change management is different, right? You're dealing with a group of 15 recruiters versus 1,500, for example. So those things obviously are there, but I think that the fundamentals are still the same. You still have a group of people that's doing things a certain way. They need to understand the business problem. They need to understand the impact, and they need to understand what they need to be doing differently and be able to, being reinforced in seeing where that's working and where it's not working. So, and I think that it can be easier to navigate change in a smaller organization because you have less layers, perhaps. But Amazon being Amazon, culturally very fast-paced and innovative, there perhaps are less layers than you might find in another big corporation. So, yeah.
Like an Accenture, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So if somebody's just getting started with this, because I mean, I meet lots of organizations, large ones, who haven't really done anything. They've just given their recruiters an ATS and told them to get on with it.
hmm
What are the first couple of things that you're going to start with? What's the first 90 days look like?
For someone that's brand new to recruiting operations?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like if you're the type of person that reads a job description associated with the things that we've just talked about, um, you're ready to get in there and see how things work. I think the first thing you do is you just listen and you do as much discovery and education as you can. I think for me, it's always been about kind of understanding it so that I can talk about it in a way that makes sense to other people, but also so that for my own credibility when talking to a stakeholder, explaining the benefit of a change, that I really know what I'm talking about. So I think that that's really the place to start, is to spend time listening, doing discovery, documenting, and then really trying to get a sense of, I think, any recruiting operations person is going to have 10 times more problems and things to fix than time to do it. So, and that's true whether you've just started in it or whether you're leading a function. So I think you've got to have a way of prioritizing your work that makes sense. So whether that is in service of a goal that is supporting perhaps a larger, people team goal or a larger business goal, obviously that would take precedence. Something that's having a direct impact on your funnel or your ability to make offers, for example, or a compliance matter is going to take precedence. But just having a way of, when you're new to a recruiting operations role, I think it's okay to just say to whomever you're working with as a manager, I want to make sure I'm prioritizing my time on the right things. And hopefully your manager is helping you do that actively. But if you feel overwhelmed and if you feel like there's too many things and where do I start and where do I focus, I would actively ask and kind of recheck prioritization. I even do that at my level. Hey, here are the 3 things I'm working on this week. Any reason to change those, or is there something new that's come up that I haven't heard about? So I think that's really important for someone to keep in mind at the beginning and throughout their career.
A lot of very interesting points there. I think the question around like how would I know when the job's done? The job's probably never done.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I believe that within a recruiting team of say 5 years ago, there's 100 people in the team, and let's say 85 of them are actually recruiting. I think 5 years from now, that size of a team is going to have a lot more people doing enablement and kind of operations type things than they were in the past. Is that what you've
Yeah,
seen?
I think so. I mean, and I think unfortunately, a lot of operations type roles are the first to get cut, especially over recent times. And I think that's unfortunate because I don't think not everyone, but I think some people don't realize what you have until it's gone, and there's no one to think about the process. There's no one to help you inspect or keep you on a cadence or a rhythm of business. There's no one to address the challenges that you're having with your system or your vendor. So I think those things become really obvious when they've gone away. So I do think that you'll continue to see people um, specialize. I mean, having been on the job market recently myself, I will say that recruiting operations, talent acquisition operations is pretty undervalued and undercompensated in what I'm seeing, to be honest. Because again, I don't think people appreciate the complexity that's there and really how powerful that enablement is. I do think you're going to see, I mean, whether we call it operations or we call it enablement or not, I think we will see more people doing that type of work, especially when you think about, all of, the technology advances, AI, et cetera. How is that going to play out? What are the real role is going to be. I mean, let's hope AI can help us get rid of some administrative tasks that don't add value to anyone, right? Like that's the best thing that it could do for us, so that when we're doing enablement, we can focus on, really adding value as someone that's, training recruiters or spending time with the business to help them understand how to be, better partners. So again, like you talk about, freeing up time for recruiters so they can do more value added activities. The same is true for recruiter enablement folks. Like we'd much rather be working on a strategic problem than, going through something that AI could perhaps have made easier for us.
Amy, thank you very much for giving me some time today. It's been great to learn from you, and
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing you again.
Thanks, Adam. I appreciate being here.